Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for joining us for the 22nd edition of World Sustainable Development Summit, India's premier platform for deliberating the discourse around sustainability and climate change. It is my great privilege to host you all on behalf of the entire WSGS and TERI team. My name is Nimish Singh, and I will be introducing a fantastic line of speakers who are all experts and great leaders in their respective fields. For this session on progress made under National Clean Air Program, national and international perspective. I would now request our Director, Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Director General, the Energy and Resource Institute, to deliver her welcome address.
So very good afternoon to all of you. And I'm sure the panelists will have a tough time. They'll really have to make the session very attractive and lively, because after having lunch and so many sessions in the morning, it's going to be little, I'll say, heavy on each one of us. But the topic is such, when we talk of air pollution, I suppose those of us who are residing in Delhi, but it is a sort of urgent situation. Come November or before November, when we are in the month of October and we are talking about the excellent weather, the next sentence is, we are not so much worried about the chill, we are worried about the pollution which will start now. You talk to, I'll go back when we were studying and when we were discussing amongst the colleagues, the discussion was, do we have adequate opportunities in India, or should I go overseas looking for a job? That has totally changed today. Today, when I talk to, or when I look my children and their friends talk to me, their answer is, in India, we have everything. There are lots of opportunities. We also, in a way, we are blessed because we also get help. And everything is great in India, but is this the place where we would like to bring up our children? Because somewhere we all are worried about what is going to happen, or rather what is happening to our lungs today. And do we really want to give this kind of living to our children? The answer to that, perhaps we all will agree that we should not be living in this kind of threat or what we are facing even today. It's a critical problem, not just in Delhi. And of course, I recited more from Delhi because I'm here. And it's something like with me, and I have a bad throat starting from November until end of February, early March. It is something in Delhi I'm coughing. And it's very interesting that the moment I'll go to Guwahati or some other city, the moment I get down from the plane, I'm fine. And the moment the plane lands in Delhi and the doors open, I again start. So it is clear indicator. And it's more worrisome. And I'm sharing some of my personal experiences. And I was talking to one of the doctors, because what is happening, and maybe even you might have faced in your families as well, that the pulse rate is fluctuating in young generation. And I was talking to one of the doctors, and because my own daughter and daughter-in-law have that problem. And again, like it is something like that in the month from March till October, they are fine. So I was quite surprised because last year it was a sort of emergency situation. And then it was something like within 3-4 days, everything became normal. What is this? Before means we took the appointment with the doctor, but before we went to the doctor, she was fine. And then talking to him, it was a game that it is one of the effects of air pollution. Now imagine, isn't it this a silent killer? Isn't it it's something, but this indirectly reflects what is happening to you. But it is having, it's going to have long-term impact on your heart. And It is, as I said, it is not just Delhi. It is that about 75% of the cities in India, they are violating the prescribed standards of the air pollutants. It is not just in Delhi. It is not just confined to metros. Perhaps it is also impacting our regions. And largely, it is because of the biomass burning and the small scale industries. MOEF, and I'm quite impressed, and I must say that fortunately, we have Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, not just prescribing, they actually act. It's not just that they make regulations, they actually work on it, how to go about it. And in that mode only, they have launched NCAP in January 2019 with the intent of 20 to 30% reduction in PM 2.5 and PM 10 concentrations by 2024, with the base year as 2017. In 2017, Finance Committee granted the fund of 44,000 million Indian rupees for air quality management in non-attainment studies. And later in 2020, a commission has been formulated for managing air quality in Delhi and neighboring states. Now, these are issues, and I'm sure you are going to discuss more about it. But what I would also like to acknowledge, and some of you are attending all the sessions of World Sustainable Development Summit, which brings, apart from air pollution, lot many other issues also in the center stage. And we are very grateful to Bloomberg Philanthropies for their financial support. And I'll say it's not just restricted to financial, we also have very interesting discussions. We are very fortunate to have Pooja Tiwari with us from Bloomberg. So all the time we get, I should say, guidance and even international experiences being shared by them. So thank you, Pooja, for that. We are also very fortunate today because we have lots of excellent speakers. The keynote address will be given by Dr. Prashant Gangwar, Member Secretary, Central Pollution Control Board. Shri Ashish Tiwari ji, who is Secretary in Department of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Uttar Pradesh. Good representations from Ministry of Environment and Forest, Shri Subramaniam, Shri Prasun Tripathi, and Dr. Ashok Ghosh, Chairman, Bihar Pollution Control Board, who are also our partners in the project. So thank you for being with us. I'll also like to acknowledge presence of Ms. Jane Burston, Executive Director, Clean Energy Fund. And we are looking forward that TERI as an institute also, we need to strengthen our work in this area. And we do look forward to working with you as well. So I won't take much time. And since you have excellent speakers today, and I look forward to having their interventions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Chancellor, ma'am, in the dance.
Well, while I have said lots about this session, I haven't mentioned about the work which we are doing in TERI on air pollution. And I'd like to acknowledge help from Swiss Development Corporation, SDC, and Jonathan, who is really, I should say, dedicated to the cause and working very closely with us. We are learning a lot from them. And thanks, STC and Jonathan, you in particular. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for raising such a pertinent issue at a time when we have seen heavy loads of air pollution across the country over the past couple of months. It has been around 4 years into the launch of NCAP program to lead the air pollution mitigation efforts in the women. A number of analyses over the years have been conducted on multiple pollutants, which have shown a marginal decrease in the pollution levels in those targeted cities. To reduce the concentration of air pollutants in the air and ensure a holistic, continuous efforts towards mitigation of air pollution, sustainable development has to become a flag bearer of everyday development. We need to work together and find the line to walk between the growing needs of developing country like India and to do it without harming any part of the economy. We have always anticipated that through this summit, we are paving our way towards mainstreaming the sustainable development with national and global leaders setting standards and deliberating this important issue. With this, I invite Ms. Shri Tiwari, India Climate and Environment Global Climate.
Thank you so much, Nimish. Hello and good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to everyone, speakers, panelists, and participants. Firstly, on behalf of Bloomberg Philanthropies, I would like to congratulate Vibha and the entire team for such a splendid 22nd edition of the World Sustainable Development Summit. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you so much. So for those of you who don't know Bloomberg Philanthropies, it works in 941 cities, 173 countries around the world to ensure better, longer lives for the greatest number of people. And we are absolutely delighted to be working here in India with a consortium of partners, including TERI, and with other partners as well. And in collaboration, that's our privilege, and we are really honored for that, to work with the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. And we also align our work with the Central Pollution Control Board, the State Pollution Control Boards, state environment departments, city municipal corporations, and others. Our approach has been of working with governments to improve air quality through stronger evidence and data, peer-to-peer learning, capacity building, and policy engagement. We know air pollution is such a complex and multi-sectoral problem with so many causes and sources that at times it appears to be intractable. But experience across the world and also in India, as it was evident in the regional workshops that the ministry had conducted, that progress is possible with the right planning and implementation. In fact, I would say the National Clean Air Program in 2019, when it was launched, was definitely a solid attempt, and it has put forth a consolidated framework to work towards air quality. That in itself shows commitment to the cause, especially in a country where there are multiple and competing priority issues. In the last few years, I just want to take a little optimistic view and also appreciate and pat all our backs and say, yes, we've done well. So whether it's actions specifically under NCAP or co-benefits from other work areas, we can appreciate many actions and achievements. Of course, humongous challenges remain. Whether it's an increase in the number of cities showing better air quality, whether it's in the number of monitoring stations, which have increased, whether it's substantial increase in funds allocated for control of air pollution and making them performance-based. Commissioning of source apportionment studies, and developing state, city, as well as the micro-action plans, leapfrogging to BS6 standards, piloting ETS, policies like a congestion charge on trucks, banning older and polluting vehicles, moving towards e-vehicles and e-buses, penalties on open burning, shifting to cleaner technologies and clean fuels and industries, uh, testing innovative and latest technologies for monitoring expansion, acknowledging and working towards an airshed management approach, work on revising the national ambient air quality standards. We have the stalwart here, the work is in progress. And not to mention the salience that the topic, the issue of air quality has taken at the national level. We hear it all the time in the national debates. And the number of institutions, research institutions, CSOs, philanthropic organizations who have now started work in this. And from 2019, if we compare, we will see that there has been an increase. So there are a whole lot of examples, also case studies internationally, locally now, that are shining examples. And the trick is to really see how we could cost effectively scale. And it's work in progress, despite all the challenges, I would say. And just thinking more overarching, I would say there are a few key ingredients in driving that progress over the years and even as we move ahead. First is better evidence and data, with the important caveat of also knowing how that data and evidence has to be used, how it leads to effective policies and actions, and also how it can be used for monitoring and evaluation and correcting the course. And of course, leading to behavior change through public awareness and citizen engagement. Secondly, high-level leadership in introducing innovative policies and driving interagency coordination for that on-the-ground work. That is the core part. And finally, partnerships. In many cities across the world that have showed improvements in air quality, partnerships have been key. Governments have had partnerships with academic institutions, civil society partners, business industry associations to really take bold actions and improve air quality. An example is also the CEO Forum, which CII, CAF, many partners are involved. They bring on the private sector side of companies to really see, can we align, can we join forces, can we scale some innovative actions that have come in there. So in conclusion, I would say that a lot of progress and actions has taken place, but of course, a lot still needs to be done as many challenges remain. And as poetically said, we have miles to go before we sleep. So today, all hands on the deck are needed, and we at Bloomberg Philanthropies look forward to working collaboratively with all the stakeholders and work with the right strategies and conviction to reach out for that blue sky and clean air for all. And in the end, I would say I really look forward to all the learnings from Dr. Gargav's keynote address, as well as a very engaging panel discussion, which is in the hands of expert Shri Ashish Tiwari and a stellar panel. So look forward and all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your enriching words. We are actually having convocation of our TERI students today also. Ma'am has to join that time, so she will take a leave. But if I may request the panelists to join us for a very quick photograph before we start the next session. Shri Ashish Tiwari, sir, Secretary Department of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Shri N. Subramanian, Scientist D, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Shri Prasanth Tripathi, Under Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Dr. Ashok Ghosh, Chairman of Air Pollution Group, who have actually joined us online. And of course, please. Thank you so much, everyone, for waiting patiently. And now moving towards one of the most awaited keynote address. I would like to request Dr. Prashant Gargava, Member Secretary, Central Commission of the Board of India, to give his keynote address.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all of you. I have been coming for the summit for many years now, and attending this theme on clean air. It's good to be here again, limiting a stock of progress made under National Clean Air Program. But I haven't thought of prepared or written speech what I should be talking about. But air quality has been a concern, and we are, particularly, if I talk about myself, it's not only job or duty, but also a passion. And NCAP, I'm personally attached to, because in 2017, I wrote the concept note for NCAP, which was launched in 19 January. So we're discussing at national level if we to address what all we should be doing. And then I wrote detailed note. Of course, that time I called it AIM, Air Improvement Mission. Subsequently, more and more stakeholders joined. The program got expanded. It took the shape of NCAP. So I'm personally attached to this NCAP, and therefore I'm extremely thankful to TERI for giving me this opportunity to be here and talking about NCAP. We have started our journey for improving air quality in cities and towns ever since the Air Act was enacted in 1981. Awareness was very little. Practically, it was no subject. Was limited only because of the Bhopal gas incidents. There was some concern about that, and then gradually over the years, when we started setting the standards, emission standards, environmental recovery standards, work was going in silence. But in a collective partnership was referring to in a comprehensive manner, bringing in science to the air quality, core issues. It did not happen for many years. There were actions being taken, but at much faster rate, either growth or other activities that were contributing, that remained. So therefore, the efforts were very less, and while the problem was getting bigger and bigger. During 2007 and 10, we conducted very domestic city source opportunity studies. And I was fortunate to be associated leading that study. And that was sort of eye-opener for us. And also, there are three, very important milestones in our air quality improvement journey. One was the 6 city study, which essentially established that science has to be at the core of all our action and planning, all our implementation programs. It also, for the first time, that we realized that when we are talking about particular matter, which seems to be the key problem here, there are n number of other sources also, or parameters also we need to focus on. Or more importantly, gases which are converting into particles. Second game changer was the 2015, when Honorable Prime Minister launched the Air Quality Index. And that essentially took the awareness campaign at much faster track. People started to accommodate you. I remember in 2017, when we were asked to write the graded response action plan, while we referred to air quality indices, the 6 categories of good, bad, etc. Then there was discussion that, if you talk about AQI, people probably may not understand, will not, get to understand what we're talking about. So while we keep AQI in mind, but let's try and give the concentration. If you look at our graph table, it gives you the concentration values. So in 2016-17, AQI, though was launched, but people are still thinking about air quality concentration. And when we rewrote this, when we updated, then there was a demand. If nobody understands concentration, now you should talk in terms of AQI. So the 2015 AQI launch, which brought the subject much into public discussion, was the second game changer. And third, of course, was not a very good thing, but it helped a lot. When in 2016, for the first time, we had the Delhi very high episode during November, Diwali, extremely bad meteorology, and the regional contribution coming from North India, the paddy stop burning. So everything got stuck in Delhi, and then for 3-4 days, we didn't have any wind that could sort of dilute or take away the pollution levels. So that was the third episode of incidents. That sort of fast-tracked the entire effort. We started talking about convergence effort, putting in resources, arranging resources, and then we came with NCAP. And I'll be happy to share with you that we are on the right track, and then there has been progress. We have a portal. If you go to the portal, you will get all these details. I'll not get into the numbers. But in the last 3-4 years, we have been continuously engaging with all the stakeholders. There are city plans, and we said that making city plan is not good enough. City will have to go for micro planning. If you're saying that you need to improve the road, you need to identify which road and by what time you're going to do that. If you're saying that you're going to add few more buses into your public transport fleet, how many buses? Have you made your calculations of how much do you need? And where are the sources coming from? What is the time frame? So we started looking into the micro level activities for each of the cities, provided framework to the cities, sat with them, guided them, worked with them. And I think more than 90 towns and cities we have micro plans with us. This is sort of work in progress, since you are trying to look at what progress has been done. So while we have 131 cities action plans, we have more than 90 cities. And we did understand, and of course you all are expert, would know that you need actions at all the levels. So there are policy interventions at the central government level. There are state plans. More than 20 states, they have a state-specific plan. Mr. Tiwari is very aggressively working on a plan for UP. You all are aware of that. So the state plan is equally important. That puts the states, focus on the policy, the related issues for the state. And then, of course, you have city and city-specific plans, and then trying to address the more critical period through your public grievance portal, hotspot identification, or the handling the sources during critical period, which we expect much higher concentration because of very adverse meteorological conditions. So we have these plans. The plans are being implemented. I think 8,700 crore rupees have been disbursed only under NCAP and through Finance Commission grant. And this is in addition to sector-specific resources that have been pulled in. Mahua, they have their plans, such as the scheme, petroleum. So all different line industries, they also come forward. Everyone is working together now, diverting their resources to the areas where we need to focus more in non-attendant cities, in Indo-Gangetic Plain. So other ministries also, they are prioritizing their resource allocation to these areas. So what is happening? You will get all this picture on the Prana portal that we have launched. We have been sending our teams, CPC, we have deployed its own team for getting the ground feedback. And just 15 years back, they were all sent to the fields, all 131 towns and cities. Our teams have been deployed to get the feel as to what is happening. The plans are being implemented. What is the status of implementation? What is the status of stakeholder consultation? It's collective and continuous work together is extremely important. They also try to assess whether the people in cities are continuously meeting, trying to resolve the issues, taking the steps that are needed. So this kind of feedback also is there. Of course, our international partners brought a lot of learnings and sort of prevented reinventing, as we often call, and then learning so that we could fast track our action. So that helped a lot. The Bloomberg, GIZ, UNAP, UNDP, USAID, they are also working with the states and cities, directly providing support that is required. So a lot of things are happening and happening in the right direction. In terms of the progress, I think last year, 45 cities, they met their target that was set. So we have set year-on-year targets for the cities, and 45 cities were able to meet those targets, and 95 cities we have seen declining trends. Only in few cities, either we are at the same level or increasing, but there are reasons for that. Cities are going for example, putting up public transportation, metro, and a lot of construction activities happening. So there could be obvious management infrastructure, road repair work. So there are certain activities which eventually would help us in minimizing the pollution levels. But by and large, the progress that we look at today, there is progress. There is progress on expected lines, despite growing in terms of population and other activities. We have been not only able to contain this in majority of the towns and cities, but also made substantial progress. Especially in Delhi, where we have been working since 2016-17. Now we have a commission which is working in a very focused manner on each and every aspect of air pollution, not only local sources, but also regional sources. Very comprehensive plan to deal with produce farm management, with in-situ and ex-situ, various options. CPCB also very recently announced financial support for setting up pelletization plants which could use paddy straw to produce pellets or torrefied pellets for use in industries. Coal has been banned in industries. So for industry, for big kilns, we could use paddy straw based pellets. So this is, in a nutshell, the progress that I thought of before. I don't have the data with me, but I'm sure you will get it from Prana portal. But there is a lot need to be done. Now the levels are too high, especially in IGP, while we are targeting 40 minutes too high. PM 2.5, 40 itself is too high. But I'm sure that next year, 2 years, when we have larger penetration of BS6 vehicles, old vehicles being out, we have scrap policy in place now. A lot of scrap policies have come up. So things will be on faster now. Other components of NCAP, the standard Vijay was talking about. So we have been working with a group of experts led by IIT Kanpur. We have health professionals there working in. Some progress is made, and I guess next 5-6 months, we will be in a position to have the draft standards ready for discussion. For satellite-based measurement, we did some work with IIT Delhi. We have been able to come out with our own indigenous correlation factors. And the places where we don't have a mountain network, also will have a fairly good idea about the PM 2.5 levels, which would, without having ground-based measurements, lead to actions in those parts as well. In terms of Expanding our monitoring capacities, we notified National Physical Laboratory as certification agency. And last month itself, we had relooked and revised our PM 2.5 standard specifications for promoting more of indigenous samplers. So within the limited resources, you could expand it much faster rate. A lot of work is happening in addition to city, state, and plans, city, state, and national level plans. I look forward to the deliberations, the panel discussions here. We have a lot to learn from each other. But one thing that I must say that we all are committed for this. It's only a matter of time because you can't turn around things overnight when you have a very big problem. What's important is that your intent should be on the right side. You should be committed and then continuously work towards bringing in people, bringing in resources, bringing in technologies, innovative ideas, try and implement those ideas for the betterment. And that's what we are doing. That much I can assure you. So just I'll close. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enriching words. It has been our privilege to host you, and we look forward to your continued guidance and association with us in your future endeavors to combat menace of air pollution and environment. And I'm saying thank you and just want to TERI, I think, actually speaking for everybody sitting in this room. Thank you so much, sir. Now, I would like to invite our esteemed panelists to join the dais and share their immense experience and the progress made under the National Clean Air Program. So, already here. Thank you, sir. Shri Ashish Tiwari, sir, Secretary, Department of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Uttar Pradesh. Shri N. Subramanian, Scientist D, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Shri Prasun Tripathi ji, Under Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Dr. Ashok Ghosh, Chairman, Bihar Pollution Control Board. Ms. Jane Rouston, Executive Director, Clean Air Film. Mr. T. Mahesh, Chief Environmental Officer, Karnataka Pollution Control Board. Mr. Jonathan Devangi, Head, Swiss Development Corporation. Now, I would request Shri Ashish Tiwari ji to moderate the session and take over the proceedings. The floor is all yours.
A very warm good afternoon to everyone present over here, the audience, esteemed panelists. We are having a very good context setting by DG TERI, Dr. Prashant Gargava, and Mrs. Pooja Tiwari. It's my privilege to welcome on this panel Dr. Prashant Gargava, Member Secretary, Central Pollution Control Board. We have a very senior official joining us online, Dr. Ashok Ghosh, Chairman, Bihar Pollution Control Board. Then we have a good, you can say, representation from all, you can say, players working in the field of air pollution. We are having pleasure to have here Shri N. Subramaniam, who is Scientist D, Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change, which is the nodal ministry for implementation of National Clean Air Program. We have philanthropy well represented in this panel. Jane Burston, She is Executive Director, Clean Air Fund. We have Jonathan Demange. He is Head of Cooperation, Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation. We have also the geography well represented over here. We are pleased to online have Mr. T. Mahesan, who is Chief Environmental Officer of Karnataka State Pollution Control Board. And very importantly, the audience, I can see many faces known to me because having been working in the field of environment and air pollution, but definitely with all your support, I think the main objective of this session is we are already in a 4th year of National Clean Air Program. And as Dr. Gargava has already mentioned that a lot has been done. And it's really a great challenge it's really a great challenge for a country like India, which is at a developing stage, to have pollution levels under control. But as compared to the global, you can say global success stories, we are really doing very, very well, rightly narrated by Dr. Gargava. I'm told that one of the panelists, Dr. Subramanian and Mahesan, has left because of some urgent work. So I think we will be having more participation, time to participate, like from the audience. I think we can also contribute to the meaningful discussion over here. I have basically 40 minutes time for this panel discussion, and maximum 40 minutes time. We are having 3, 4, 1 online, 4 panelists. So I will be requesting panelists to give their inputs within a time frame of say 4 to 5 minutes, so that we can have audience participation also. And to begin with, I think I'll again go back to Dr. Gargava. He is very, you can say very insightfully taken all of us to the success story of air pollution management in our country, in India, and particularly the action which are being taken up under National Clean Air Program across the country. So Dr. Gargava, I think we would request you to throw some more light on, like we are already in the 4th year of implementation of National Clean Air Program. And definitely there are some emerging challenges, like lot many funds have been earmarked under the dedicated funding scheme, which is National Clean Air Program, 15 Finance Commission, to the cities. And there are also the line ministries involved. National Clean Air Program is a well-crafted program in which all line ministries also have their interventions well synergized, and a very robust mechanism of Apex Committee, Steering Committee of National Clean Air Program is there when every ministry is duly represented. So my request to Dr. Bhargava would be, after you can say more than halfway to the implementation of National Clean Air Program, what are the emerging challenges and what is actually the strategy to like overcome those challenges? Over to Dr. Bhargava, please.
Good that you asked the question, because on the challenges that we have. but there are in fact quite a few challenges. Most important is, of course, the public participation. While we have been able to create awareness, we have been able to create demand by the public for clean air, but then contribution coming from individuals has yet to come. So I think we need to work a lot on those lines. We have been continuously engaging with people, NGOs and other groups, but still, I always give example of Indore under Swachh Bharat mission. Now Indore has been ranked 1 continuously for past 6 years, not because they did have some different technology, MSW management infrastructure, the technologies are known, and many places you have similar technologies. Primarily it is because of public participation, public taking pride in managing the city's waste well, public taking pride in being ranked as number 1. I keep listening many individual experiences. Many people told me that when they are in Indore, even if they throw a piece of paper, there would be somebody there who would say, say in different manner, not that it is not to be thrown, no littering should be there, but they would say, not here, this is Indore. So this is a kind of pride they take in the city. So that kind of participation, public awareness needs to come for air quality as well. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. Coming to implementation, again, as I said, there are multiple agencies who are involved. They have been working for their own mandates in silos. So, grassroots level worker, to create awareness, to sensitize them as to how important this work is for air quality for the people itself. That's something we need to work a lot. Third challenge, of course, is resources, and how do we augment. If I talk about public transport, we all know that we need to have a good public transport, but then putting up a good metro network or having a clean fleet of buses, taking old vehicles out of the roads in a shorter duration of time. So the resources, how fast you can build those, provide those resources for a change, that will be a bigger challenge. Those cities which have been able to manage resources from various schemes are able to do good works. So there are two main challenges which I think we should be trying to overcome in years to come.
Thank you, Dr. Gargava. You have pointed out the people's involvement, and I think solution is very right time here, the lifestyle for environment, which is going to be a globally movement, and it is catching up in our country. And I tell you, since I am coming from sub-regional level, in fact, the states also, cities also, the schools, colleges, institutions, corporates, etc., they are coming up with their own contributions towards their environmental responsibility, and also they take pride in being involved in lifestyle for environment, and definitely very rightly pointed out about the implementation challenges. And there is a thinking, I think, in which Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is also working on that direction, that the targets for reduction of air pollution has to be synergized with the targets of various schemes of the line departments. And we have seen MOEFCC very closely working with the ministries to actually get the targets synergized, so that when supposing a PNG pipeline has to come to a particular industrial area, so the prioritization of industrial area based upon air pollution sensitivity has to be there. So that kind of intervention is now building up. So thank you, Dr. Gargava. We would be having your views during the course of discussion. Then I'll request Dr. Ashok Ghosh, who is chairman of, as I already mentioned, Bihar State Pollution Control Board. Bihar being part of Indo-Gangetic airshed, and Bihar has a positioning such that it is in the downstream of Indo-Gangetic airshed. And recently, the all kinds of challenges which are there in Indo-Gangetic plain cities are there in Bihar. It's very heavily populated with very high anthropogenic activities, and the kind of pollution sources understood to have similar to state of Uttar Pradesh. Clean cooking and heating is a major source of emission in Bihar. So I would request Dr. Ghosh to enlighten us regarding the strategies which Bihar is taking up for control of air pollution. Over to Dr. Ghosh.
Thank you, Ashish Tiwari ji. It was a pleasure for me to see Gargawa Sahab and Pooja. I'm missing all of you. I was expected there, but my flight was cancelled, so I'm online. Rightly said, the challenges in Bihar is, different as compared to other part of India, being a part of an Indo-Gangetic plain. We have many things against us as far as air pollution is concerned. One of them is the geology. You all know that 90% of Bihar is alluvial, very soft soil is there. And any anthropogenic activity aggravates the situation very fast. The second problem is there that if you compare the wind velocity of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and UP, comparatively, the wind velocity, we're monitoring it regularly. The wind velocity in Bihar is very, very, very low as compared to UP and Bengal. And third problem is there that the neighborhood contribution also. Although in our state, parali burning is very little, almost non-significant. But due to airflow from western side or eastern side, we are getting lots of parali particles also in Bihar. From as far as, Punjab and Haryana and UP, and then to our state. So we have challenges, no doubt. And we are trying to combat the challenges. First challenge was there when I came here in Pollution Control Board. The concept among bureaucracy and government agency was there that controlling air pollution is the duty of Bihar State Pollution Control Board. Others don't have any responsibility. So 1 year I spent in convincing people and Chief Secretary and CM and everybody that controlling air pollution is not a duty of only, we are a part of it, no doubt, but many line departments are involved in the activities. Fortunately, we are successful now. Government is sensitized, departments are sensitized, and all the departments, line departments like road construction, agriculture, building construction, they are on the same page now. They understand that air quality action plan is not for only pollution control board. We are the regulatory body. We can give the guidelines, we can give the instruction, but the real work has to be done by all the line departments. And fortunately, our Chief Secretary, as of now, is very sensitive towards air pollution. And there's a committee under him. And that's why we are getting the support from all the line departments. And we are expecting that good things will come up. The third was there that when I came here, there were only 3 monitoring stations. And people thought that in Bihar, there are only 3 polluted cities. Today, people say that when Dr. Ghosh came, the number of polluted cities has increased to 21. The reason was there. Earlier, when I came, there were only 3 monitoring stations. I thought that this is not fair. In such a big state, 3 monitoring stations is not giving real picture. So I exerted my energy and resources, and now we have 35 monitoring stations covering 22 districts. So due to me, the number of polluted city has increased in Bihar a lot. So I'm at fault. If I would not have put the stations, still Bihar was having only 3, but now we have many. And this is a good thing that we have done. We have done the source approximate study also. And for technical expertise, we have tied up with so many organizations because we had limited expertise. We are working with IIT Delhi. We are working with IIT Kanpur. We are working with UNEP. We are working with UNDP. And also Bloomberg, Sakti Foundation, they've all contributed to Bihar in source approximation study, dispersion modeling, everything. And now we have actual data that from where the pollutants are coming, what are the sources, what are the contribution. We know the exact contribution that from which sources, how much air pollution is coming. And we are taking steps. But this problem has been created not in one day or 2 days. This problem has been created in 50 years. So I always say that problem, I'm optimistic, problem can be revoked, but it will take some time and energy. And rightly said by Dr. Gargava and you also, that without community participation, any environmental problem cannot be resolved. I strongly believe that all the environmental laws can be successfully implemented only through the people's participation. So we are working in that direction also with awareness programs in schools, nukkad nataks, things like that, to make people aware. And it is giving results. And I'm hopeful that in coming days, it will be positive results. One more thing, last thing I would like to add. We have started one more study with IMD, and already the program has been rolled, where we will be able to predict the air pollution warning, early warning, like the meteorological warning. We are working on software so that 3 days advance we can predict that what will be the hotspots of air pollution, and that will help in our taking the knee-jerk action. That if you know earlier that okay, this is going to be hotspot in particular zone, then we can take some initiative, short-term initiative in that area to combat the air pollution. So things are bad, no doubt. I accept it, and we are working to improve it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ghosh. And I think you have very rightly told the fact that now, at least under National Clean Air Program, all the agencies, they have started owning their responsibility. And it is true at all. It is true at the level of all cities across the country. And but definitely, as you mentioned, that now you have strategic knowledge on air pollution is very, very important. And it really takes time for the studies to get completed, which gives you insight about the source contributions, etc. So we are very happy that Bihar, now you have strategic knowledge with you. And we are like quite sure that Bihar must be having very good, you can say, short-term, long-term strategies to tackle those sources on air pollution, clean cooking and space heating being the challenge in Uttar Pradesh and in Bihar also. And it's a very complex problem, in fact. Like the solutions are there, but whether those solutions are sustainable or not, that is the major problem. If those solutions, after sales services, etc., if they are not in place, the whole ecosystem is not in place, then the best conventional source of cooking, etc. So it's a very complex problem. And we have heard that many interventions are being done in Bihar. We would like to hear you during the course of this discussion also. And then I'll go to the panel is duly represented with all stakeholders, and we have philanthropies duly represented in this panel, and Mrs. Jane Burston is also here. She is Executive Director of Clean Air Fund, and Clean Air Fund, as we all know, like we read in the website also, they are working across the world, and they have global experiences also, as DG TERI also told us. But the kind of, as Dr. Gargava was also mentioning, that many organizations, philanthropies, they are directly working with the cities, the states, and at the central level also. There is an area of concern wherein, like, how do the philanthropy support can actually fill the critical gaps in the government interventions. So we would like to hear from Jane that what kind of a strategy Clean Air Fund or other philanthropies have so that they can complement the government's intervention and actually support the government where actually government has a critical gap. Over to Jane.
Thank you very much. Well, the first thing that it's worth saying in answer to the question about how philanthropy can complement government is the scale of philanthropic funding is often much, much smaller than government and official donors are ever able to manage. And so with humility, I think that philanthropy very often is keen to understand government priorities and also where it can play a catalytic role. But it maybe is worth me taking a step back and explaining for air quality the context around philanthropic funding. Because every year the Clean Air Fund produces a report called the State of Global Air Quality Funding. And we've been tracking this since 2015. So the bad news is that only 0.1% of all philanthropic funding globally goes to air quality, outdoor air quality, very small amount. The good news is it is increasing. In 2015, from the foundations that we tracked, it was only $15 million globally. 2021, it had reached 65 million globally. And the number of funders donating to outdoor air quality projects has also doubled over that period. So the number of foundations coming into this space has increased as there's more evidence of the health and the economic, the environmental impacts of air quality. And each funder is funding more. Where is it going? Well, back in 2015, a lot of the funding from philanthropy was focused in North America and in China. And actually, India's share of that funding has been increasing over time. So India's share was around 7% in 2015, and now it's almost up to 25% of the total. And the money's been spent on a variety of different things. Research is just under 10%. Data and the monitoring, which has been mentioned already, is around about 13%. Policy support at 20%. And I know that Mr. Ghosh and Mr. Gargava both mentioned the concern around raising public awareness and the need for public participation. And actually the comms and awareness raising is the largest topic that philanthropy is funding, about 25% of the funding. That's globally, those figures, those percentages, rather than for India specifically. So when you hear those numbers, it really puts into perspective how small philanthropic funding can be compared to even the city budgets. But when philanthropy really understands government priorities, it can be very catalytic because it can often be fast. It can be flexible. So we were chatting earlier about the potential, for example, of philanthropic funding to come in alongside very large loans from official donors. And in fact, in UP, there's a 550 million World Bank loan, which is not allowed to be used for consultancy. Consultancy is needed to prioritize what that money will be spent on and to help help the government control the spend. And so philanthropy can provide small but catalytic funding for project management units, for example, to serve the government to help spend those much larger infrastructure sums as they wish. Another example of the kind of thing that philanthropy often does is experimentation. The funding is sometimes a bit less, we're able to take more risks than other sources of funding and produce pilots and innovation in conjunction with the government. And so again, in UP, there's a decision support system being developed in Lucknow, which, if successful, could then be rolled out to cities across the state and potentially beyond using government powers and government funding. So they're just a few examples, I think, of how philanthropic funding is small but catalytic.
Pointed out of filling the critical gaps. Here, basically, the need arises that a good either a good policy framework exists on the government side, that how we like augment the philanthropic support. And on the other side, like there has to be a kind of a dialogue which has to be there just to understand that what kind of critical gaps are there with the government. And that so happened, I am happy to tell you, in the state of Uttar Pradesh, it's not because I'm coming from there, but like I would be very, very happy to share that some of the critical gaps, like Jane mentioned about the World Bank funding, in which our finance department was very particular that the loan amount should not go to consultancies at all. It should be dedicated to the ground core work on air pollution, no consultancies. But any large scale project cannot be implemented unless you have consultancies. So that was a critical gap. And the finance department, you all understand, they are the supreme in the government working. So this was a critical gap. And when the government had a dialogue with the partners, and we are happy that that particular critical gap is now bridged with the help of philanthropy support. So that is the kind of ecosystem which should be there, so that every stakeholder in the ecosystem complements each other's efforts. So thank you, Jen. And one, like, as Clean Air Fund is working across the world, so there is a great scope of bringing in the global best practices. So what is your strategy on bringing in global best practices in a customized manner to Indian cities? Please may throw some light on that.
Thank you. So one thing that we try and do is help coordinate international networking, so that it's not reliant on individual organizations bringing best practices, but people can attend international conferences, for example, maybe through travel grants, or coordinating those conferences ourselves, so that people can hear what is going on elsewhere in the world, partner with people internationally, and pick up on projects that might be relevant to them. I think the other thing is we're very keen to transfer best practices from India to elsewhere. Pooja, in her opening remarks, mentioned a project that the Confederation of Indian Industry is doing here, called the CEO Forum for Clean Air. And it's a first of its kind network of the private sector on air quality. Having funded that, we saw how effective it was, how keen the business leaders were to engage. And now we have started funding that both in Poland at a national level, but also globally with the World Economic Forum, bringing together multinational businesses to replicate some of the things that the CII has been doing with Indian businesses. And then we've also learned from projects that weren't originally philanthropically funded, or maybe were in part, and are replicating those elsewhere. So there's a great example of a project that was part of the Nurturing Neighborhoods Challenge that the National Institute of Urban Affairs ran with the Bernard Van Leer Foundation. It was about re-landscaping areas outside nurseries, so that there would be places for families to sit away from sources of pollution. Maybe there's green barriers as well, some planting. And it was a very cheap way of just quickly transforming the area so that there was a safe and cleaner and less polluted spot for families to spend a lot of their time to reduce. So having seen that through some of the partners that we've had here, we're now able to pick up that learning and replicate that in Accra in Ghana.
Thank you, Jen. And I think one more area which you have thrown a light on, basically on urban mobility, green infrastructure, etc. The biggest problem which we feel in our country, that everybody wants to go non-motorized, but the kind of weather and climate we have, that is the biggest barrier. So there comes the role of green infrastructures. And I think metros and all, like, they are not the solutions for every city. It's a very, very high cost intensive, some 400 crore a kilometer is the cost of metros. And wherever we have seen the metros in place, the ridership are not improving you can say owing to various factors regarding last mile connectivity, too many players in the transport space. Like there has been a concept of UMTA also. Recently, Bangalore has done an intervention on integrated transport authority. So I think global best practices on rapid transport system, or sometimes metro, because it is coupled with land use, transport oriented land use planning. So that those kinds of global best practices are needed, so that at least for the future development, India is adding urban space equal to Chicago city every year. So kind of urban development which has to be there in India, air pollution sensitive, climate sensitive, urban planning. I think those are the areas where really we need intervention on global best practices. So thank you, Jane. And we have with us Jonathan, who also works through TERI with the UP state government. And there is a very challenging area of recently, you must have all, since you are in Delhi, we read in the newspaper that a super site for real-time source apportionment has been established in Delhi. And prior to that, every smart city has a very, you can say, state-of-art integrated command and control centers. But we felt that Shubham worked with us, who is now working with CII. We studied kind of one ICCC in Lucknow, and we found that the capacity utilization of that state-of-art infrastructure is very low. In fact, if percentage-wise, if one can assess, it's 20 to 30%. Of course, it has a great potential for leveraging for air pollution mitigation works in the city. So I would request, Jonathan has been working through TERI with us on leveraging integrated command and control centers, which are there in smart cities. We have started a pilot in Lucknow so that it can be leveraged for air pollution control systems. So I would request Jonathan to tell what kind of intervention Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation is taking in air pollution space to bring in the global best practices, and also making some game-changing interventions. Over to Jonathan.
Thank you very much, Ashish. It's a real pleasure and privilege and surprise to be here, actually, because I thought I would quietly sit and listen to eminent speakers, and then I was called on stage. So I will try to improvise something. But anyway, that's a subject that is very close to my heart, and I think that we're all concerned about. So I think we all can tell something about it. And yes, we had also the privilege to work together with the department headed by Mr. Ashish Tiwari through TERI, through a project called the Clean Air Project India, because we also work in SDC, the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, also work in other areas in the world. We have a similar project in China. We have a similar project in Latin America as well. And we're also building on the knowledge, the expertise that is created here, that is created there, but also in Switzerland, because it's not an issue that is particular to India. That's a global issue. That's a universal issue. And I must say in Switzerland, even though Switzerland is known for this, clean air, and actually now when I go in Switzerland, usually I go to breathe clean air. The first thing I do when I reach my village at 1,800 meters is that I go there and I just like, okay, now I can breathe. And the air quality index there is around 0. And if it reaches 10, now usually we call the government. But anyway, so what do we do through the Clean Air Project? The first thing that we do, as you mentioned, is to work on source apportionment studies, for instance. We work on, on research, on improving air quality monitoring, because you have to know what is the degree of pollution and what the sources of pollution are before you can act on them. And they happen to be very different from one city to the other. Among the 4 cities we work on, all of them have different, the sources of pollution are often the same, but in which proportion varies a lot from one city to the other, whether it's traffic, road dust, waste, cooking, burning, coal burning industries, agricultural waste treatment, and so on. So first, we need to know. The second thing that we do, the second pillar of the Clean Air Project, is to work on clean air plans. So accompany, support cities to develop their policy tool, their plan to fight against air pollution and to implement projects. That's very important. And by the way, I have to say that everything we do is also aligned with the National Clean Air Policy, and everything we do is aligned with India's priorities and instruments, and that's very important. So first, then after that, we implement. We try to implement some pilots. We select some pilots. We co-select, and for us, it was very important to select the pilots that Mr. Tiwari and his department identified. Say, okay, we want to work on that. Let's try. Let's put these cameras. We know where the sources of illegal waste dumping are, waste that are then burned. Let's put some cameras there so that we can quickly act when it happens and stop it from happening. And I think we are going to see the results soon of this action. That's because that's the next step also, of course, is to monitor the impact of this these actions. And then the third one, which has been mentioned also quite widely here, is about increasing awareness, because people are concerned unless people support, unless people demand for action, and unless they act themselves, things will not change. So it has to be treated. Air pollution is a very important topic. It's a very important matter. Let's not be complacent about it. It's a threat. As Mrs. Vivadawan, Dr. Vivadawan mentioned, it is a silent killer. And I think we all know the figures, but we need to create awareness around that. We will need to increase awareness and make sure that people do ask for a change in that. So these are the three pillars, and I think we've seen some high results. It's not there yet. I mean, the problem is still quite significant, but it's been very heartening to hear already that 95 cities have improved their air quality. And I know that the state of UP in which we work, and Lucknow, for instance, and Varanasi have been able to show some very good results also in terms of diminishing days, increasing the days with clean air. Yes.
Thank you, Jonathan. I think Jonathan rightly mentioned and very simply mentioned that how the integrated command and control center infrastructure can be leveraged. The chronic waste burning sites in the cities, you have to just put PTZ camera over there. And a platform is very well developed in ICCC. We have just put 30,000 rupees camera and the waste burning problem has gone off from there. So it's like just like promoting a virtual monitoring system, of which the Jane was mentioning. A decision support system for virtual monitoring mechanism is being developed by IIT Kanpur, which is very simple tool just to put a smart meter in air pollution control system sub-circuit, and you can remotely monitor whether that air pollution control system is working or not. You need not go physically over there. And so, as with the SEMS also, Dr. Gargava was like very visionary in putting SEMS in stacks of the industries. At least we can have some lead over what kind of emissions have. We can send ground level teams to the defaulting industries. So that actually can improve our efficiency in monitoring and you can say enforcement side. But definitely a long-term strategy is very, very needed, and kind of a framework and financial resources to implement that long-term strategy is very, very important. Coming back to a long-term strategy for Indo-Gangetic Plain, I think everyone knows that we have to go beyond cities to work for air pollution. For Indo-Gangetic airshed, like Commission on Air Quality Management has started working actually beyond the cities to a region, not exactly delineating the boundaries of Northern India airshed, Indo-Gangetic airshed, but definitely a regional approach has been evolved, and Commission on Air Quality is working on that. And we all must appreciate that because of CAQM framework, a good synergy between various states which are there in NCR and various agencies have been arrived at. Timely actions on GRAP, graded response action plans, are also being taken this year on the basis of forecasting in advance. So these are the, like you can say, some very high successes in the field of air pollution. So coming back to Indo-Gangetic Plain airshed issue, as UP has already started working on a state level airshed action plan under the technical support of World Bank, and a whole financial mapping is being done to actually understand what are the critical gaps to implement that airshed based action plan. And for meeting those critical gaps, $550 million World Bank loan project, UP Clean Air Management project is being worked out. So that is a kind of long-term strategy. And we would like to hear from Dr. Gargava also, since airshed study is a new field. It's a new field, it's a new science, it's a new methodology. So what kind of support from CPCB can be provided to states which are working? And I think Bihar and Haryana has also shown recently interest on working on airshed. So this will be very, very important as a long-term strategy for control of air pollution. Over to Dr. Gargava to handhold all the states on that, and particularly putting in place a framework like COQM for the whole Indo-Gangetic airshed, so that synergized efforts, Bihar should not say that pollution is coming from UP, UP should not be able to say that pollution is coming from Delhi and Punjab, something like that. Over to Dr. Gargav. This is a very important issue.
Thank you. Just two inputs on this. On airshed, of course, for Delhi, we had done some work along with TERI and IMD. The draft report is finalized. So we have been able to delineate airshed for Delhi NCR. That's number one. Number two, with IIT Delhi, we also have been able to identify macro airsheds in the country. So there are methodologies in place. There are agencies who could take up this work to delineate. Now coming to the action plan based on airshed, Delhi, of course, though currently we are working on political boundaries for NCR, but for IGP, recently we submitted a report in Honorable NGT. There was a matter wherein Honorable NGT wanted that, while IGP has its own typical air pollution problem, that does not mean that, they should not grow. They have equal rights to, grow, as any other part of the country where you have much cleaner air. So they wanted us to put up, some sort of strategy as to how IGP can have growth with, adequate preventive measures in place. So a committee worked, I chaired that committee, we had submitted the report. So for IGP, we have prescribed, we were able to identify the critical hotspots within IGP, the sources, we had district-wise inventories in place, and for brick kilns, for MSMEs, technology upgradation of those industrial sectors, which currently have very old, dirty technologies. So the complete framework in place now. But I think I agree with you. You are absolutely right that we should be, working more on airshed-based all analysis in terms of sources, in terms of air quality levels, in terms of action plans, in terms of sharing of knowledge, experiences within a airshed would give us much better results in comparison to having a state-wise or city-wise plan alone. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Gargava. And I think right work in right direction is already being taken up, and we hope to really see a well synergized approach. If we look to our country, there may be many airsheds, maybe many micro airsheds also. This is a new science, in fact. And there is really a need of strategic knowledge on airshed. If we go on a city-based approach, just areas outside city, which are very much contributing to city air pollution. So definitely CPCB and MOEFCC has earlier also talked about not cities, but urban agglomerations, preparing an action plan for urban agglomeration so that at least micro airshed contributions can be mitigated. So these are all the future strategies, and based upon global experiences, we can understand that air pollution is a problem which cannot be eliminated at the drop of the hat. In fact, we have to work in a multi-strategy, multi-sectoral, multi-agency approach in a very well synergized manner. And in fact, sometimes what we found in UP cities, the development works which are aimed at air pollution control, like construction of metro, etc. Because of that, the city's level of air pollution was a bit higher, because even if you adopt kind of mitigation, dust pollution control measures, then also there would be some emissions. So with this, I think it's a very interesting subject, and it can really, but it would be very, very good to have, I think, audience reflections and audience guidance, audience questions on this particular subject. And now I am stopping with Gargav Sao's permission and Ghosh sir's permission from panel side, and let us have reflections from the audience. Yes, please. Somebody could help me to take the mic over there.
Hello. Sir, I have two questions about the public participation, because every one on the panel have spoke about that. So, like Prashant sir said, like contribution from individual has yet to come. So I have two questions about public participation. So when we talk about RIGO declaration, so there is a public should have access to information. They should have access to public participation, and they should also have access to justice as well. And that is something we all agree on. And for the public participation, public need to know. There is a CSE's report, Center for Science and Environment, which talks about transparency of pollution control boards in India, which has been recently launched. So disclosure of information in the public domain is one of the important functions of state pollution control boards and committees to increase public participation and public awareness. There are statutory obligation also for some indicators like CEMS, continuous emission monitoring system data, that has available in public domain. But even after the Supreme Court order 2017 for making CEMS data public, the status for CEMS information public is not available. It should be. DPCC have uploaded the data which is 11 years old. 11 PCBs haven't provided the data at all, which include Bihar and Jharkhand.
Can you shorten your question? We have understood your question, please.
So what I'm saying is, like, when you're talking about public participation, public awareness, and you are not US PCBs, pollution control boards, are not providing that data and information to the public. So how you can expect public to participate? And the second thing, public participation also means representation as well. So there is a board in the state, like control pollution boards, so which should have representation from civil society, academia. So Shibani Ghosh, who works at Center for Policy Research, they have also launched a report which says, like I'm shorten, the board members are often representatives of corporations, industries, and municipal bodies which are potential polluters. So I have two questions, like how can public participate in such a situation when like the information is not giving to us, and how do you are going to deal with that, like the transparency and that public representation in the whole process? Yeah.
I think you are right that in order to ensure public participation, we need to provide the information to people. There could be, variations across the states, but to my understanding, it's not the intent. I can, guarantee from CPCB that all our information, all our data, are in public domain. At times, putting up information, without proper understanding, you specifically mentioned about SEMS. Now, state boards are getting the data. We also do get the data. But then, unless until we have the kind of understanding that the SEMS could, give you peak concentrations, for few minutes, which is quite normal when you're working in a dynamic system. Unless until, we have that level of understanding, otherwise you would have, n number of, such violations reported. So that, there has to be some, clarity as to what extent sharing this information, whether it will be really helpful or not helpful. So there could be some, discussions on that, some divergent views on that. But by and large, all our information are public. I talked about Prana portal for NCAP. So all the data are going to the real-time basis. Air quality information without human intervention, goes for real-time basis. Our EPR portals that we have, for plastic waste management, all this information, it's completely transparent, no human intervention. Companies' liabilities are calculated automatically, through a system. But targets or progress is also captured. Again, tracking through GST, through the cell reports, and everything is public domain. So there could be some variations among the states, but I agree with you that we should be, transparent in providing all the information. But that's first step. You have to go beyond that as well.
Actually, one more question. Actually, our session time is already over. So quickly, I think you have to put your question in a very short manner. Yeah, ma'am, please. Yeah. You please. Yeah. I think you should wrap up your question. We have understood your question. I'll reply. Yeah. Connect and time. I think you are very right. In fact, that is why I am saying that the intervention on, you can say, supply side is very, very important. And that is why whatever new developments we are having, like for old cities, we have limited scope to make much of a change. But for new areas are growing very fast. There at least we must have a good air pollution sensitive planning and you can say transit oriented land use planning also, so that all whatever transit intervention we put in place are actually utilized. Yeah, please. Yeah, just very short question. Minister is standing outside, I am told. number of vehicles and number of, you can say. So the master planning of city is done by, in some state, the urban local bodies, in some state, the development authorities. And these elements, after Honorable NGT order, have been taken care of, like adequate parking spaces, number of road network, the width of the road, pedestrian pathways, etc., as per the carrying capacity of the city. But definitely, in a democratic country of India, country like India, we cannot have vehicle capping policy.
Let me try and answer your question. The carrying capacity, accessibility capacity are important for future planning and also taking actions in the current situation as well. Now, in terms of carrying capacity, it's a very broad term, and one has to look at, depending on the resources that are available within the given area, how much population it can sustain. If you have water resources, how many people that water resource could support to a population for drinking, for other purposes. Now you don't have any control over there. It's much bigger issue. You can't, unless until, for example, if Delhi can sustain 10 lakh of people, and if you have 1 crore of people, then you can't say that we'll provide transportation or drinking water or sanitation only to 10 lakh, rest all go. So you have that limitation when you have to address the carrying capacity issue. Now coming to accessibility capacity, the moment you have set your standards, the areas where you already have levels much higher than standards, definitely you have exceeded the carrying capacity of that area, your accessibility capacity of that area. So therefore, these action plans to control the emissions, to bring it to the acceptable levels. Once you have done that, then in futuristic planning, you should be able to see as to how much further growth it can do. And of course, the growth where you can have control, you can have, but where you don't have control, you will have to target the area where it is possible to make some interventions. So it's a part and partial, and it is happening. For many towns and cities, we have now carrying capacity studies being done. For all 131 cities, we have carrying capacity also as part of NCAP. And many cities have taken up this work as well. So it's not that we are not looking at accessibility capacity or carrying capacity. These are very broad terms, and then require a lot of fine studies.
Thank you, Dr. Gargava. And I think the master of the session has given a barrier of the time to me. So I thanks the esteemed panelists, Dr. Ghosh, Dr. Gargava, Jonathan Dimonji, and Jane, and most importantly, the audience. We can have questions over refreshments. Thank you so much.
To start here. So thank you everyone for this splendid session. Thank you, Steve.